Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar title is Co-Leadership, How Being a Leader is Within Your Reach. And today's webinar presenter is Bram Bronneberg. If you have any questions for Bram, could you please type them into the questions field on your control panel, and at the end of the webinar I'll address these questions to Bram directly. You can get access to these slides and a recording of the webinar on the EuroSTAR website. And if you want to join the conversation on Twitter, you can find us at #ESConf. Our Twitter handle is @ESConf, and today's webinar presenter, Bram, you can find him at @Bram Bronneberg. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to today's webinar presenter, Bram. Hello, Bram.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to out of your schedule. Some of you will be at lunchtime. I'm at lunchtime here. So I was trying to make a little different story than I usually do. I wanted to tell you a little story. And my story is about co-leadership as a subject. And the different thing is I will show you how co-leadership is needed in our work, especially for us as a tester, by introducing you to Bob. And first off, going to co-leadership itself, what is it? What is leadership per se? If we take a look at leadership, the first thing that comes to mind to me was a leader, a person, a man, a woman, someone. And history is full of examples of leaders. And we have all kinds of fields of leadership. We have battle, we have religion, we have humanitarian, music, business, all kinds of fields where these people are seen as a leader. And what makes someone a leader? What is it that makes me think about Martin Luther King as a leader? There are a couple of things that they do, and that is when they show leadership, they do a couple of things, namely they inspire people. The main subject that people see, they look up to a leader and they think, wow, he says things I need to know, I want to do what he does. And the leader doesn't only inspire, he also gives direction. Because if you look at leadership as a definition, it's somewhat like getting a group or some form of a group into one goal. All of them need to work to one single goal, and that's giving direction. And the leader does that by inspiring, but also by inciting them. Inciting people to get up from their seats and do something different, do something that's changed. But how does this relate to my little story? I wanted to talk about co-leadership because there is something more to being a leader than meets the eye. Because you can also be a leader without having a vertical or hierarchical mandate. You don't have to be the boss, so to say. And co-leadership is a term that's widely interchangeable with shared leadership, horizontal leadership, collective leadership, distributed leadership, and collaborative leadership. All these terms state that the group as a whole consists of only leaders. Every single person in the group can become the leader when the time is right. And when we think about it, what does that mean? What does this truly mean for us? Do we do that in our work? Do I do that in my work? I'm seeing a lot of people in my surroundings, in my teams, at my clients that could benefit from understanding co-leadership as a group, understanding what they need to do. And I'm going to tell you the little story about Bob in a minute. And Bob, you will see, is not having the best time of his life. Bob is going to need co-leadership. And I'll show that to you in a minute. But meet Bob. Yeah, forgive my drawing abilities, but that's me. Bob is the new software tester. Bob is just from school, just came out of school, and is totally quality-minded, knows everything there is to know about IT, about testing. He is Scrum certified, agile testing, test frame, all the things we think we need from the starting point. And Bob is starting, and Bob, no pun intended, is dreaming about getting the EuroSTAR Testing Excellence Award someday, maybe. But Bob is going to start his new job at the new startup company. And Bob's first day is very, very, very strange for him, but here is the team that will welcome him with open arms. We have Dave, his Scrum Master. We have Oscar, his programmer. Jane, the designer, and Harry, the product owner. These 4 people, together with Bob, will be a team, a group of people. And Bob has fun his first month. Bob is doing the things he loves. He's going to test. Everybody is happy, including Bob. And Bob attacks every hurdle he comes across. He thrives on everything new, all the new jobs, all the new technology, all the new challenges. He goes for it. And he truly focuses on his responsibilities. And Bob is having a good month. And all the team is welcoming Bob, and Bob is new, so he can try something. But there's one thing, every single time Bob finds a bug, he's very, very proud of having found the bug. And Oscar, our programmer, is thinking about that it is very cool that he advertises every single bug he finds. So Oscar is getting a little bit annoyed with Bob. But in the second month, it goes on like this, and every single bug he finds is advertised, and Oscar is going against it. He says, no, it's not a bug, but a feature. Who hasn't heard that one before? And Dave, the product owner, is getting a little, Dave, the Scrum Master, is getting a little bit testy and says, oh, Bob, check your scripts first. Don't go to Oscar with every little thing that you think is a bug. Check first. And Bob is becoming a little anxious. There's a little frustration, a little doubt. And Bob goes into this month with seeing trouble around every corner. He doubts every decision he is making, and he is seeking constant confirmation of all the things he does. And people see that when Bob is working. One day he's frantically working, and the next day he's frozen and seems very lacking any vigor. And this ends up getting him into trouble again, because the product owner is getting questions every single time. Bob seeks the constant confirmation. And Harry, the product owner, is getting a little annoyed. But we go into the third month, and we had a little frustration already. But now it comes to the point that every single confirmation he asks from Harry again, he gets a little annoyed and says, I explained this to you yesterday, and every single time you ask it every single day. And Harry is a little annoyed. And this ends up getting our Bob a little frustrated, a little angry. And that ends up that he doesn't self-reflect anymore. He gives blame to others. He's just doing the thing he needs to do, and just he isn't very happy anymore to do his job, and he just does what he's told. But then we end up with Dave, the product owner, the Scrum Master, saying he needs a little time out. He's getting a little anxious, and he's talking about that this is his fault and I did my best and he programmed it falsely, or the product owner didn't answer my questions. There are all kinds of things that ended up getting Dave into trouble, Bob into trouble. So at the 4th month, Bob stops caring. The entire team, who were very welcoming to Bob at the start, now turn their backs to him, and Bob ends up not doing his job anymore and simply not caring anymore. Sounds familiar? I see this at a lot of my clients, where a lot of people end up doing simply nothing anymore and just saying yes to everything they're told, but doing it, not doing it, and so on and so on. But what happened in these 4 months? What happened to Bob? What could have happened to us? You see Bob at the start being challenged. He was having fun. He's on the top of his game. He's on the top of the mountain. And that's the place we all want to be in. That's the place we do our best work, and okay, we make a mistake or so because of our enthusiasm, but this is the place you want to be to excel. And Bob started in that place. In the 2nd month, Bob got frustrated. He was slipping down the slopes and was slowly losing grip on the situation, asking confirmations all over again and again. Then, when nobody was listening to Bob anymore, Bob was getting angry. Simply put, Bob didn't care. He went down to the bottom of the mountain and was simply somewhere else. And this is what happens to a lot of testers. A lot of testers do the best the job they know. They are very quality minded, raise bars to end up with a quality solution, and assess the risks and share them with the team. And the trouble with that is, if you don't do that in the right way and the team isn't accepting it, you will end up not being listened to anymore. And Bob is in that place. Here you see it, and the place that you end up with, that you aren't an asset to the team anymore, but you're seen as an obstacle. And the thing is, what you warned at the start, you said, no, we need to test more of this feature, or we needed to do a little more investigation before we go on, this is too much work and we can't do it. And we always end up cleaning up the mess. Software testers are simply always on the back end of a process of software. They need to test after a programmer. And so this is what frustrates most testers around me. They are simply fed up with cleaning up what they want would happen. No. This was a little story, a very quick little story, and I hope some of you could relate to Bob or envision a different scenario what ended up with the same thing. But how would co-leadership help? Because I was talking about co-leadership, yes. But why? And I can put it on one slide. Co-leadership consists of the every single person in the group, in the team, is an expert in their respective field. And so they can contribute to the team as a whole. A programmer knows code the best. A tester is very analytical, knows quality the best. Designer knows user interfaces the best. Product owner knows the customer the best. And it doesn't need to be Scrum, but in this example it is. But this shows how very, very important it is that you need to recognize that every single one is an asset from the get-go. Everyone is valuable. And the thing is, if you want to show that, you need to inspire the others. If you are Bob, you need to not check all the software and raise a bug and celebrate raising the bug. No, you need to inspire others around you that quality is important and that you need them to think quality as well. You need to inspire them. You even need to incite them a little, and you need to challenge them a little and say, no, we go for quality, get them riled up. And then the other thing you need to do is to give them the direction. Simply put, people need to follow the expert. If you are the subject matter expert, you would be the one who is giving the direction. If you can't do any of these three things, you probably are in the same situation as Bob. You aren't listened to. But people do need to step up and claim their rightful place when the time comes. Like King Arthur, who pulled Excalibur out of the stone. You need to do it yourself. You need help, of course, but it starts and ends with the person itself. And that means that not everyone is comfortable giving direction or inspiring others or inciting others. I will come to that in a minute. But the thing is, if you want to be able to be seen as an inspiration, as a direction giving, as a leader, you need to be confident. You need to be confident of your work. You need to be confident that you are the subject matter expert. You will also need to be a little proud. If you're not proud, how could you be able to glow that you love your work? So, next to being confident, you need to be proud of what you can do. And even you need to be proud of what others around you can do. And the last thing you need to do to be able to get a little bit closer to co-leadership, being a leader, is being an exemplar. You need to walk the talk. If you're saying you need to be very quality-minded to a programmer, you can't be seen slacking. For instance, with your scripts. If you say, I find it very important for instance, at a more classical environment that version numbering for code is very clear to you, you also need to use versioning on your own stuff. It's usually not very much effort on your part, but it makes so much value to you that nobody can pin you down on something, because simply not everybody is on the top of the mountain. We spoke about it. But co-leadership. The thing is, you can't lead from the bottom. What we saw with Bob was not seen as a leader. Bob was thrown aside and nobody was listening, and Bob wasn't having a great day. So you need to get out of the valley and back to the top. And how to do that? Bob, when he was at the bottom of the valley, he was very tensed, and when he was on the top of the valley, he was tensed and challenged. That was a good starting point in the first 2 months. And think about your own situation. When you are having fun at your job, you're going to work in the morning, whistling, and get at work, chat a little at the coffee station. And you see that someone isn't very challenged, but almost at that point. He's a little frustrated because things aren't going as well as he hoped they would go, but they ended up, but you can see them slipping down the mountain. And this is the part where you need to pitch in your own qualities, because people like Bob, who are almost at the top, they only need a little pat on the back to stay on top, or they need a little feedback to do something. People who are already in the position that they can be seen as a leader need to stay there, and you need to help them stay there. And this is a situation that's the positive side. People are already on the good side of the mountain. They can also be a little lower down the slopes. You could also be frustrated or have been given up. And if you are confronted with someone like Bob in your team, at the first place, you should have tried doing something good to prevent this happening, but you can still do something, because there are still the same guy like Bob who was fresh out of college, who was very into going for it and the go-to attitude, and he still knows his stuff. He is just not motivated anymore. And the thing is, when you are confronted with someone who is in this place, you need to confront him. You even need to give him a little nudge, maybe a little like insult, confront him with his behavior. Don't go into the content, just go into the behavior. And get people out of their cave. Get people back to the mountain. Simply climbing it again. Going for it. So, if you think about this situation, think about yourself. Have you ever been in this situation that there was a smart guy, you saw he was a very, very smart guy, but he was simply not getting the most out of himself? And what did you do? Did you confront him? Did you help him? No. I hope so. I hope so that you now see where people can be in their respective walk up the mountain and try to do it, to lead again. And I'm going through my time a little fast for the wrap up. If you see in here, you see the mountain here again. It's very, very, very important that you know who it is, where you are on this mountain. Know where you yourself are, but also where your colleagues are. So if you're on the top of the mountain, being exemplar, being proud, being confident, makes you seen as a leader. And every single person in your team needs to be on the mountain, on the top of the mountain, when their time has come, when the time has come for their profession to be there. For instance, the tester should be on the top of the mountain when there is a highly critical item under construction. The Scrum Master needs to be on the top of the mountain when there is a lot of things going on. He needs to get his head around. But next to knowing where you are yourself, you need to know where your colleagues are. If your colleagues aren't on the top 2 levels of your mountain, there is something very, very, very wrong. And you need to help them. And there are a couple of things you can do to help. Giving them a compliment, giving them a little pat on the back, is all they usually need to just climb those last few steps and do it. When people are a little lower on the mountain, you really need to confront them. You need to talk to them very, very delicately, of course, but you need to address their behavior. But you need to know that you need them as well to go to the end result. So, and finally, you do need to do it yourself. When you are on the top of the mountain, you are engaged. It isn't enough to just do your job great. You need to get everybody with you. You need to show leadership. You need to be the one everybody looks for direction. You need to incite them, you need to inspire them. You simply need to step up to the plate. So, in short, a little info about, a little story about how people get down the mountain, and a little information about co-leadership. And I want to simply let you simmer on this message. Simply, everybody can be a leader. You simply need to step up to the plate. So with this, I would ask Vero to open up the questions.
Okay, Bram, thank you very much for that webinar. And we're now, as you mentioned there, we're just going to open the floor to questions. So if you have any questions, can you please just type them into the questions field on your control panel, and I'll address them to Bram. So I'll give you a few seconds there to add in your questions, and let me just bring your attention to our webinar archive. All our webinar recordings are available on the EuroSTAR webinar archive. You'll find it on the EuroSTAR conference webpage. There's over 50 webinars available. And if you join the community, you will not only get access to these webinars, but you'll also get access to over 600 software testing presentations, webinars, videos, podcasts, ebooks, and more. This year's conference is in Gothenburg, and that will be on from the 4th to the 7th of November. So we hope to see you there. And register. You can now buy tickets from April the 11th for your super early bird ticket. You'll get a discount of €430. So make sure you get in nice and early for your discount. So now we'll just go back and see what questions we have for Bram here now. So the first question I have here, just bear with me 1 second, is from Enro. Do you feel that there is Do you feel that it is the best thing for a team to agree how feedback is given, for example, for raising defects at the start of the project, so that the people do not lose confidence along the way?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, April, for the question. And there was a little static on the line, but I thought you asked that if it is very good to have an agreement about how you give feedback from the get-go, and you speak to each other to get.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but
if you like, I'll repeat the question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about this little time delay, everybody. I'm just going to repeat the question so it's clear. Do you feel that it is the best thing for a team to agree how feedback is given, for example, for raising defects at the start of the project, so that people do not lose confidence along the way?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. If it's the best thing, well, that's not up to me. But I do think it's good to communicate about feedback, to let people know honestly that you are all about giving feedback to each other. And if you choose to do that at the start of a project, make a little agreement with each other how you go about giving feedback. For instance, about defects. It's a very good thing, and I would even think you should go beyond defects, but would go into all kinds of feedback. Just go into retrospections, for instance, and all those. Make it clear that it's valuable for everyone, and that's an opinion, and that you want to discuss it. So, I hope I answered your question with that, April.
The next question I have here is from Miles Tull. How can I, as a team leader, promote my team members to step up get involved and to get in.
Okay. Being a team leader is exactly, that's probably your job. Your job leading the team is to empower your team to do the same. Because you as a team leader aren't the one who can code the best, you aren't the one who can test the best or can design the best, for instance. So it's up to you to help people climb up the mountain. And there are a couple of things you could do to support them. Because, next to the mitigations you can do when people are slipping down the slope, you could do the compliments thing. And when people are on the top 2 levels, give them a pat on the back when they're doing the right thing, give them feedback when they need it, give them a chance to reflect with each other why they are on the top of the mountain. And if people aren't stepping up to the plate, and that's probably the thing that you'll be confronted with most of the time, people are doing a great job and are on the top of the mountain, but they simply don't seem to go the next step where they show all their personal skills, their soft skills, so they can get the surroundings to move with them. And you as a team leader can, for instance, the team can hear it, even though the people who are very good at their job aren't showing it themselves. Just giving them an option to explain their works, giving them an option to explain at a Friday afternoon drinks, for instance, a new gimmick they are developing, a new coding guideline, or maybe a new testing tool. All things to put people on the spotlight, and it's quite scary, but that may help them go out of their comfort zone and really step up to the plate. Do you have any more questions there?
One question here from a James Reedhead. How do you inspire a developer who still does not value the job that testers do?
Yeah, that's quite a common problem, I would suppose. And it is a mindset of the developer, of course, but he won't change out of his own accord. So that's the thing to do as a tester, is to explain that you're not just checking his work, but that you are contributing. You aren't the one who is an obstacle for his deployments. You are the one who helps him do his job as well. And it's quite difficult to break through that common perception that that there is a developer, and that's a thing that's close to my heart. People talk about developers a lot of the time when they actually mean a programmer. And of course, a programmer is a highly skilled professional, but a tester is as well. So if a programmer understands that his work isn't perfect, and he is human, and he needs testers to support his own job, he can appreciate them a little more. But that's in an ideal world. The thing I would recommend doing is going from just being a tester at the back of the developer, just after the programmer's work. You need to feed the programmer with the requirements. Testers are usually very much more close to the customer. They can translate the customer's wishes much better than the programmer should be able to do. And I would recommend combining the requirements engineer and the tester into one person. So he is the one who will feed the programmer with his requirements, and also the one who will be checking the requirements, of course, but also next to testing around the requirements. And I have experience with that approach, and there are a couple of people in my surroundings who are trying to do that in bigger companies. And that seems to make a real change for programmers, because they need a tester in that respect, and they feel that they need a tester, because without that person they wouldn't have any requirements to build. So that's a little tip. So I should recommend trying that one.
Okay, Bram, the question Dara was trying to get through there before we had those technical problems from Aparna G. How should you react as a leader if your superior leader is not monitoring the activities or tasks or the work we are doing?
If the higher leader isn't monitoring, was that the question?
Monitoring the activities or tasks or the work we are doing.
Okay. Yeah. Let's let me think about that one. If there isn't anybody who cares about what you're doing, if that's the case, then you have to think about if you are doing the right job. And you will always be confronted with people who are above you hierarchically, but simply don't listen to you. And it's your job as a middle manager, for instance, if that's a little bit of the case you are describing, a team leader who has to report to a higher leader. You have to do the job of inciting those vigorous feelings back up the chain of command. You have to show the proudness of a team, for instance, and that would make a higher hierarchical manager interested in what are these people doing. You are costing a lot of money, of course. That's the thing we do, and we work, and it costs money. But if you are being very proud of what you're doing and showing that, invite them over, come have lunch with the team, for instance, and show a little bit of the things you do each day. And if on that occasion the people are doing a good job, are happy with it, and are glowing with proudness, I would think a hierarchical higher manager would be keen on knowing more about those nice people who are doing a great job. I hope I answered your question with that.
Okay, Bram, the next question is from Isaac Malan. What do you do in an environment where there is lots of questions?
If there are questions on the contents, on the technical side, there isn't any change. If there are a lot of questions, it's not anything different from having a lot of requirements. There will always be questions, of course, but if you are in a situation that nothing is known, you just know you have to turn up on Monday with all your team, and then you just start where you can find the starting point. You still need to have someone who steps up to the plate to answer the questions. And for instance, if you have the situation of Bob and the team, there's a product owner. He should be the one who goes to all the parties involved, all the stakeholders of the system, to answer the questions the team has. And they need to show how people can do it. So also a developer can go to an architect to ask questions, and the tester can go to a business analyst to ask a question. And a team manager can go to a process manager, for instance. All ways to show that there is one person who is very good at getting people to open up. If he can do that, the rest can follow him, and he can give the lead to the rest. So it's just the same problem as an any problem you could describe. Are there any more questions, Paul?
Still a lot of questions coming through. We'll try to get it through as many of them as we can. The next one is from Sarah Baskaran. Being a tester, what do you do when you feel the team leader is biased, and how would you address the situation?
Okay. Oh, that's a tough one, of course, because what is the bias that the team leader has? But this is a problem that's quite common, of course, that you are seen as an obstacle. And that's just like the story that people are warning and warning and warning as a tester that all those risks aren't covered yet, and we can't go into production, and we can't go on. It's the way you do that, how you communicate that part of your job, That is the part where you would put in some bad blood with your team manager. If you always if you are always cynical, if you're always seeing all the bad things and seeing all the troubles around every corner, you are opening up a lot of emotions for a team leader to only view you as an obstacle. The thing you need to do as a tester in that respect is you need to show the value you add instead of the trouble you are going to warn about. And it's quite difficult to get your head around, but for instance, you could do a good risk assessment with your product owner, for instance, or your business partner, and with you indicate where the risks are, what are the things we don't want to happen, and you report not on I have 50 test cases done this year, this month, and I have 1,400 bugs in my reports. You don't talk about those things. You talk about we have managed to exclude, to mitigate this risk. We have mitigated that the product will not be performant enough. It will be too slow. We checked every part of it, and we know it's not too slow. And if you do it like that, you're giving, you're going in management lingo. You're just talking about mitigated the risks instead of did it 100 test cases, and that would really help. I've seen that a lot of times, especially on not IT-minded managers. They don't understand 50 test cases or 100 bugs or 5 mediums or 20 lows. Talk about what things you have covered which will not happen in production. Any more, Paul?
Sure. Here's a question from Cecilia Paolucci. I'm the QA lead of a 5-people team, and we work as staff augmentation for a client. We get things like we are not going to fix it because no one else found that but QA, and they tell me to shut up if I want to challenge them, so I'm having a really hard time keeping my team motivated. Do you have any advice?
Okay. Ooh, that's a nice problem, of course. Yeah? You are doing you're doing testing that's viewed as not lifelike. It's quite a difficult one. You should know when to stop testing, of course. There is a limit. Also, and apparently the limit for your team is different than those after your process. So you have to talk about risks again, I suppose. You have to talk to the people who say you test only the stuff that nobody ever uses. Now, let's think about it. If you're doing a requirement-based test, that means that if you're testing this requirement and nobody is going to use this, nobody will find this, why in God's name have we built this feature? That's the question you need to ask them. You need to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, if I'm not supposed to test this, why are we building it? And if you put it back, put the question back to them like this, they need to give you more information. If they say, oh, no, every year we do a little process and that uses this feature and this and that and this and that, okay, then you have new information and you could differentiate your testing efforts accordingly. But you need to open up the discussion with the stakeholders who talk down to you in this case. And from that point, you need to motivate your people again by getting them with you, getting them in conversation with the people who say you test too much. And let them tell you where the limit is. When is good enough? It's quite a fun process to do. So maybe you can try that.
This question is from Ria Hull. If you were Bob, what would have motivated and inspired you to climb back up the mountain? In my organization, pay rises have been previously frozen and the training budget is not very big. These are the things that people say motivate them. but what soft motivation feedback items can you give them instead?
Yeah. There's a little, was it the pyramid of Pavlov or something? That if you have a roof over your head, you have bread on your kitchen sink, and you have a warm house, if all those things are covered, then you can go on to the next. And it's very different for a lot of people all over the world, of course, where the limit is financially. How much money do you need to do not to care about the money part of your job anymore? And if you have people who are below a certain limit, a certain feeling limit that's not covering their normal needs, food, shelter, heat, water, of course then there's another discussion. But if people can eat, can go on holiday, then it's usually not financially, it's the challenge. And we have seen all last year, in a couple of years, a lot of companies haven't given any pay raises, for instance. And I have a lot of people in my strands who haven't had any pay raises in the last few years. But what motivates them is simply finding a job they love doing. And that's a little silly maybe to say, but if you are doing a job you aren't loving, then you should be doing another job. And of course, how can you do that as a team leader? You need to put all the cards on the table. If people aren't happy, if people saying, I'm not having fun, ask what should be changed. And if they just say money and training, then it's quite difficult to have the discussion. But if you can break that feeling and go into the emotion at first, and when you have taken a little sharp edge off of the discussion, you can find new venues to make a little more of a challenging job, or maybe another perk, or maybe giving people another responsibility, like, for instance, the question I answered earlier, where someone isn't only a tester but also a requirement engineer. Give people a different future to expand them, and maybe even say this could open up more job opportunities or more financial, higher paying jobs, for instance. So I would sum that one up. So break through the emotion, put all the cards on the table, and try to find why people aren't having fun, and try to discuss what they want to do to have more fun. I hope I'll help you a little.
Bram, there's still quite a few questions to get through here, but we're not going to get to them all. I'm just going to ask you one more before we wrap up today's webinar. This one is from Oana Kasapu. We're in a project that is in a late phase. During the bug scrubbing meetings, many bugs are deferred, usually the ones considered not high priority. Testers feel disappointed that many of the bugs they found will not be fixed in the current version. What would be a good approach to increase motivation and have the entire team on top of the mountain at this critical point?
Yeah, it's quite sad to see all your hard work not being, that people aren't using your hard work. If you raised a lot of bugs and you feel they are very, very real situation, very true bugs, and they aren't fixed, I can imagine it's a little bit of a letdown. But the thing is, you need to do is check what is your job. What is it that I'm supposed to do? And that's usually finding the bugs, checking the requirements, testing around the requirements, checking the risks, testing around the risks. But the decision to go into production isn't for us as a tester. We are just the people who state the facts. And of course you could simply be the one who are very closely to the project. You worked with this project or this company for years and years, and it's maybe a little bit of your own child, so to say. But you still need to realize that you did your job great. You found all the things. Now it's up to management to take the risks they want to take. And try to inform your entire team why some stuff isn't solved. Why is this decision done? Why is it that this bug is not fixed this release? And of course there is also always a little gray area in between where you as a quality professional should be the one who says, no, 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 you went by this one a little fast. The risk when this will go on in production will mean that, for instance, in medical world, people could die. Or in railroad system warning lights, you could say, simply people would be able to die when this goes wrong. And if you can quantify all the risks, then you have a great discussion. And that's, I find that always the nice thing to do. If there are some risks and I feel them I feel they need to be fixed, I try to find how do you say, objectify the reasons why it should be fixed. And every person who needs to make a decision truly values your input in that one. But to state the facts, that's the thing. So, I think that's all the time we had, Paul.
Yeah, Bram, it looks like it. We're getting close to the hour now, so I don't want to run over. Apologies again for the audio problems earlier on during the Q&A session, but thanks to Bram for an excellent presentation, and thanks to everybody who attended and those who asked questions too. It's worth bearing in mind that our program will be launched in the middle of next month, April, so stay tuned with the EuroSTAR website for details on the super early bird and opportunities to win free places at this year's conference. This webinar has now concluded. Thank you.